11375 presents The Real Journey of an Entrepreneur, a live discussion that focuses on what it takes to be a real entrepreneur. We are excited to present to you a few courageous individuals who have consistently worked on their craft in the areas of finance, real estate development, mental wellness, the restaurant business, and economic development. They have taken a step of faith to make those dreams come true. We're kicking off this series tonight with a discussion about what it truly means to be a consultant, and we hope that you will join us live or view on replay at 11375. We thank you for supporting. So I kicked off the new year with an event called Vision 2020, which focused specifically on social entrepreneurship. And I had this thought to do this in mind, pretty much because I saw that there was a need to be able to provide foundational information to all business owners. With this particular event, I thought it would be a great idea just to gather a group of individuals who were interested in starting a business, who wanted to learn the fundamentals of what it means to be in a nonprofit, and then also, if you wanted to start a for-profit business, the pros and cons of each one as well. The first thing you have to think about is, going through the phase of concept phase and writing everything down as you want it to appear and you visualize as you want your business to grow. And then on the back end, what we did is we added in a portion specifically for discretionary funding and how you're able to pull that funding in or apply for that funding with the respective politicians that are currently in office. Right now, what I'm really focusing on is anyone who is looking to really try something different in the realm of starting a social entrepreneurship. I wanted to make sure that businesses, especially businesses of color, have that, resource and, foundation so that they could be successful long term. Hey there, everybody. We are back. Welcome to the 11375, A Journey of an Entrepreneur. Hey, everybody. I know some folks are tuning in live, so I'm going to shout you out and say, hey, welcome. I am excited to present to you this evening The Journey of an Entrepreneur. I will be your host, your moderator, probably the HR director, marketing person, behind the scenes, all the stuff that happens when you are on your journey as an entrepreneur. I am the principal owner of 11375. We are a minority women business enterprise. What does that mean? We can talk about that later. I'm certified with the city and also the state. I have the ability now to pretty much participate and bid on contracts that are specifically designated for minority women businesses and small businesses such as myself. The designation does come with some additional requirements that we will unpack. If not tonight, we'll definitely have a full session that focuses specifically on what it means to add the designation to your business as a minority women business enterprise. But a little bit more about what I do. We are your local social business strategist that helps small businesses, large businesses to get our stuff in order. Because the truth is, what COVID has exposed about us, particularly businesses of color, that we have it together, but just not the formalization of our businesses. So that's what we do. We help with that. We help with business strategy. Right now, what I'm doing to help to fund some of my pockets right now is I'm teaching a group of wonderful young folks in Ocean Hill, Brownsville about entrepreneurship as a viable option. teaching them workforce development. We are talking about resumes and all that good stuff to help to prepare them to enter into the workforce. What I also do is I may look a little bit familiar. You may see me on the Brownsville Minute. I am a part of a wonderful collaborative that is hosted through a number of organizations. And out of the chaos of COVID and all these other things, that social injustice that has happened, the Brownsville Minute was born. It is something that came up as a need for the community, particularly in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, that we are concerned about residents getting information in a different format. So I do that as well. But I also help with foundation. I also teach financial literacy and help other individuals get their finances in order. Because the truth is, again, one of the other things that COVID has exposed, particularly for small businesses, that, you know, our finances may not be where they need to be. So I am grateful to be on this journey and to be able to prevent conversations, real conversations. Like, you know, how is it that we're able to have a business pivot, even now, within the midst of a global pandemic? How are we able to start and develop and also take advantage of some of the financial opportunities that exist? I can share a couple of tips. At the beginning of this year, I, just like everybody else, had no idea that 2020 was going to be a beast of transition. But what I did, when I went back into my notebooks, because I have like a lot of notebooks and I'm a writer and I put things in my phone, one of the things that I did commit to is branding and exposure of 11375. And what that looked like at the beginning of the year was me becoming more visible, being hired as a speaker, you know, putting a brand out there, volunteering, you know, just a few things that help to build the brand. What it turned into was that the one thing that I did accomplish, and even though the year is not over, is that I've actually accomplished that one goal, which is to brand and to become more visible. Doing little things like designing masks, right? So I have these little masks, 11375 masks, marketing, having t-shirts with the brand on it, marketing, volunteering, and never really saying no to folks who want to have me come speak, marketing. It's about making sure that I'm visible, even though it's really uncomfortable. My next guest and I, about 10 minutes before we got on, was talking about how nervous I am. I'm still nervous, even though I'm in the midst of talking live, talking about how we are building our personal brand. It's still nerve-wracking, keeps me humble and knowing that I really ain't got all my stuff together. But I'm happy to be able to share real live experiences that will help us all to be able to do really great things now. And if not now, prepare for our future as entrepreneurs. So here's what's so dope about this particular platform. I get to interview anybody I want to. Those that accept my invitation, because, you know, I'm not there yet, but I will be. And everybody gonna want to be on this show. But before I bring on my first guest for the evening, and actually as the start of this series, I just want to say thank you for joining. You know, you could be anywhere, hopefully safely in a house, right? That's where we should be right now. But you could be anywhere, tuned into anywhere, but you're really taking the time out of your schedule to learn together and grow together. So really quick tips, because I know that some of the things that we're thinking about is cash flow. What about cash flow? And how do we manage cash flow? And so one quick tip, cash flow helps to understand the health of our business, even now within COVID. If you didn't reduce your expenses at the beginning of COVID and you still was living that life, then you probably need to think about reducing some of your expenses. If you have outstanding bills with some, as most of us do, think about paying your bills strategically. If you have any creditors, talk with them, have conversations with them. Don't just hide, rip the paper up, ignore it. That's not what we should be doing. We should be really honest about our finances as it relates to our businesses and also personally. Realign your budget. There's nothing wrong with realigning your budget to understand that there are a lot of things that just may not fit in to where we are right now. If you have employees, make sure that you're on the right payroll cycle. Sometimes you have to combine and mesh it with your revenue stream. You may have to alter that a bit. These are little things that can help, but the most important thing is if you need help, consider asking for it, meaning everybody is not laying around with a bunch of money, because that's not the case. However, there are a number of organizations, which I'm going to actually share at the end of this segment. So you should stick around. And also it will be posted on my business page and also both Facebook and also Instagram, where you can tap into those resources. One, and if you're located in New York City, you have the Department of Small Business Services. If you are looking to crowdfund or raise money for your business, there's an organization that I found out about actually today. It's called I Fund Women. So there's a lot of resources that you can tap into that we just have to be prepared to tap into. If you need a CPA, get yourself a CPA or an accountant that's qualified to help you to get your books in order, because what we have discovered is that a number of minority-owned businesses, Black and brown businesses, did not even attempt or did not apply for the PPP loan because they didn't have their books in order. So now, been hearing a lot of words, a lot of rumbling in a number of different spaces that I've been jumping into, right, to get information, that there's going to be another wave of the PPP. That's not confirmed. That it's probably have to be, as we're in our political space right now, has to be confirmed through our legislators. So put pressure on them. If you are in need of funding and you want them to pass the third round of PPP, please be sure to reach out to your local legislator to make sure to let them know that you're a business owner and that this is a need, particularly for businesses of color. Finally, consider a line of credit. I know that's not easier said than done. However, there are a number of institutions out there that can help us to get in line with getting our credit in order, business credit. Start with your local bank. If you have a bank, if you're a business, you should have a bank. Have a conversation with your banker. Also consider other products and services like CDFIs. Connect with your local economic development corporation. There's a number of free resources that you can connect with, which my guests will add on and confirm that we don't often tap into those free resources. We feel like we need to pay. And there are a number of free resources that are available at your state, city, and federal level that you can take advantage of. And guess what, y'all? It's for free. So without further ado, I have the good pleasure of welcoming someone who I just met, and we're going to tell you how we met. We're going to tell you how we met. In fact, I'll let Deneisha tell it. So Deneisha is a social worker. Actually, she's just a dope individual. But I'm going to read the bio because, we got to really highlight the people that, are doing and stepping out on faith to be entrepreneurs. Because the one thing that we both recognize is that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. But Deneisha has been in the game for 8 years. Hashtag she been in there for 8 years. So we're going to give it up for her just for being past the mark. Because normally businesses don't survive past the 3-year mark. And if you make it past the 5-year mark, that means you good. So Deneisha is a consultant, a facilitator, a coach who specializes in change management, partnership development, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. That means she getting us all together. She is also a professor at the Metropolitan College of New York and has taught undergraduate courses such as statistics, social welfare policy, critical thinking, community psychology, and values and ethics. She's gonna get us in order. Deneisha holds a master's degree in forensic psychology and another in social work. And she qualified with the degrees. With a concentration in organizational management and leadership, Deneisha is a fierce advocate for oppressed people and their communities. She has helped to build several partnerships in high poverty communities and work with clients to develop anti-racist practices as well as improve diversity. So I'm about to bring Deneisha on. Hey, Deneisha.
Hey, Anita. Thank you for that warm introduction, and thank you for having me on your show tonight. I'm losing my words. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you, Deneisha. Hey.
Hey, you make me sound so amazing. Thank you. I cannot wait to start sharing with people how long of a journey it's been.
Oh, we about to jump into that. So let's get started. First of all, thank you for joining. And again, I want to shout those who are joining us. Thank you so much for joining. I promise you, you're going to take something away. I promise. So, Deneisha.
Yes.
Who are you? Who are you really? Tell us.
Who am I? I am a consultant, a facilitator, and a coach who is a social entrepreneur. I was born and raised in the Bronx, so big up to everybody out there from the BX tonight. BX holding it down. And so I was born and raised in the Bronx and really have a love for community, a love for my people. I am a first generation American, born to 2 parents from Jamaica who came to this country as adults and really believed in the American dream. And I say that to share that so much of what I was brought up to believe about America and about opportunities and about how you become successful are things that I've had to re-examine in my adulthood. And so I never grew up thinking that I would own a business. You know, I thought that I needed to go to school, get degrees, several degrees, and then get a good job that paid benefits and had direct deposit, right? One that I could climb the ladder and someday be somewhere in the C-suite. Like that was my vision. My vision was always working for someone else. And so it is a complete accident and blessing that I have become a social entrepreneur, and now for 8 years has been running my firm. And now in conjunction with 2 of my partners, Carlos and Shamika, and the managing partner at Blue Compass Group, which is a full service consulting firm, as you mentioned. And we offer consultation, facilitation, coaching, and professional development, working primarily with nonprofits that are looking to advance the greater good. And so I'm a social entrepreneur because I believe that building wealth and ownership is one of the best ways to honor my ancestors. And so I don't believe you have to be poor just because you want to do good work. And so you mentioned I have a degree in forensic psychology and one in social work, but I also am a businesswoman. And I recognize that you don't have to give away good work for free. And so I am a proud business owner, and today have a business that is dwelling in the space of abundance. But that was not always the case and may not always be the case. And so I'm happy to come on tonight and share some tips with people who are interested in being entrepreneurs and interested in the journey, because I think that it takes a village. And I didn't get here by myself. I want to recognize that up front. I had a really amazing village help me to be who I am today. And so I'm always looking to pay it forward. And so again, Anita, thank you. And I won't tell them the ratchet story of how we met. I'll let them, because I won't tell on you, but I'll let you explain a little bit about how we met, and why we have now become such an important part of each other's village.
So, as I mentioned, Deneisha and I actually work as consultants on a project specifically for Ocean Hill Brownsville. And when I first met Deneisha,
tell the truth,
I was skeptical because not because I didn't really know who she was. She just popped up in my email talking about we need to meet, and I'm like, sis, like I didn't know who she was, what she was. Like I had no idea. I'm just like, I got a schedule. And she was like, oh, when you get a chance, and I'm like, ignore. So that was the first time. Then as we started to work and meet on this community collaborative that we're working on now, and at our first convening, I was verbally violent to her. I didn't cuss. I just want to put that out there. I was like my energy was just like, like who you? Like that's what I put out there to her. And it wasn't, it was like, incorrect behavior. But I didn't cuss. I was just like, like standoffish, like, But let me tell you how she was like all hugging up on me. And for those family members that know, y'all know I everybody is suspect. Everybody, until we break down, you could prove otherwise. Everybody's suspect. And so she was like hugging up on me. I was like, girl, get off me. Like,
well, what you said to me was, I really wanted to hate you, but you were really good. And I said, oh, well, thank you. That was nice. And so sometimes people just need a hug. Sometimes to break the ice, to like not be negative towards each other. I did take it a little personal at first, but I'm like, we don't know each other. We are dumped in this space. And I think oftentimes what happens is that it's not even me and you. The systems that we work in pit us against each other, right? We are two Black consultants coming in, and the systems and the structures that be often like put you in competition. And I think one of the things we did from the first day we met each other was we broke that ice, right? And like, so you said to me, I'm not really trying to feel you. And I said, well, I'm not easily intimidated. And I get that today, but by the end of this process, you and I are going to be good friends. And I'm happy to say, and so we left with a hug, with Anita still being skeptical, but I'm happy to say a year later, we are more than colleagues. Yeah. And I look to you and I have learned so much from you, Anita, and I feel so grateful that you are a part of my village. You have been so supportive to me and so supportive to my business. And that's one of the lessons, we're going to talk about some key lessons. But one of the things that I think that we often have to do is like, there's enough work out there for everybody. There are enough projects out there, and you got to believe in yourself. Anita is strong in lots of areas where I am completely weak, where I don't have that skill set. And so I look at her in awe of her work and her confidence and being willing to get on camera and do all these things and be so public facing. And that's not my niche, right? But I am someone who can plan and organize a transformational experience. I can help groups find consensus. I can help groups come up with a plan and get to action. And so those are skill sets that I bring. And so together we make one hell of a team. And so thank you, Anita, for being willing to be open and to learn more about me. But not only that, a year later, you are putting me on your platform and giving me a space to share about myself with others. And so this is what it really looks like. This is what village means. And it does take a village. And so again, grateful, very grateful for you.
So I love Deneisha. I'm putting that out there now. I love her. I think she's amazing. And I've said that in different spaces. And I'm not saying that just because I know, because sometimes we do the love fest. Oh, I love you, girl. I love you, girl. Now,
but that's why we was honest. We started rocky, right?
I have to warm up to people, and it takes some time. And that's because I have my own personal trauma that I have to unpack, that I'm working through, particularly in COVID. But I really want to talk about your business practice as a consultant, as a facilitator, as a coach. Like, how did you create that business? Like, why did you start that? And did you start off that way?
No. So I will say, And this is something that I've had to come to. I am now a serial entrepreneur. I am on my fourth business in 8 years, or pretty much all doing the same thing. But what I was saying, we'll talk about tips, is adapting. My business has evolved over time. And I definitely have grown into the space that I'm in now. The business that I started trying to do is not at all what it looks like now. I'll share with you a little bit about the background, and then I'll share my screen and show you my website and give you an idea of what it looks like now. So when I started my business, I have a background in social work. I had been working at nonprofits around New York City for about 10 years in different capacities. I started as a case manager in a homeless shelter and did everything from working with people who were mentally ill and chemically addicted in different types of shelters, single adult shelters, family shelters. I was the director of an intensive case management program for people with chronic medical conditions. I also was the director of 2 supportive housing residences for people who were transitioning out of homelessness into permanent housing, who had been like long-term homeless. And so there, I had a really big background, deep background in doing social services around New York City. And what I found in that space is that oftentimes, one, there is a ceiling for people of color, right? Like, you think that it's all about hard work and talent, and there is an underbelly definitely in the nonprofit world in New York City. And what I will say is that oftentimes what you find is that the nonprofits can and are well intentioned, but often perpetuates the systems they're trying to dismantle. And so as a staff person at a nonprofit, oftentimes you'd see things that are going on, and you go to the meeting and you're thinking everyone's going to say it, and no one says it. And so, like, I'm the one raising my hand. I'm the one really trying to like do the work and make meaningful change. And while I was there, someone who worked for me and then my supervisor both said, like, you are pouring your whole life into this. If you just poured a fraction of this energy into your own business, you would be a phenomenal success. And so it was a seed that got planted, and I should look them up now and make sure they know what they did for me. But for like the next 6 months, it was just buzzing in my spirit. And I think I was becoming more and more unhappy at work, more and more unhappy at work. And also beginning to understand like racial justice in America. And the idea that like I was raised to believe like you just had to go to school, you get degrees, you get a good job, and you'll be able to like be ambitious and you'll be able to be successful. And after following all the rules, getting multiple degrees, doing what everything that everyone told me to do to make myself successful, I was still living in New York City and was one paycheck away from being poor and being, housing insecure. Um, and so I realized that as much as I was doing good work, one, it was becoming less fulfilling because I felt like I was perpetuating cycles. I wanted to like genuinely change, and that I couldn't always be honest because it wasn't a safe space to be honest. And I recognized that as long as I worked for skills, I would never really be on a path to wealth. And that the path to wealth in America is less about, and education is important, do not get me wrong. So please do not tweet me and say how Deneisha said education is not good. But beyond that, ownership is the way to build wealth, right? So owning something. And so, like I said, I grew up thinking I was going to get a job. But as I started doing my job and as I started climbing the ladder, really fairly quickly, I got to like this director level, middle management level, and then knew like in order for me to get further ahead, the system would have to allow it. It wouldn't be based on my talent. It wouldn't be based on the hard work that I did. It would be based on whether or not a system would be like willing to let another Black woman like in. And so I kept talking to my family about it, and finally they're like, stop complaining about it. If you're going to start a business, start a business. And I will say, I started my business safe, what I would call safe. One of my tips for people is to start smart. That would be like tip number one is as you think about starting a business, start smart. I started safe. I had a family behind me, backing me up. My sister said to me, Deneisha, you'll never be hungry, naked, or homeless. And like that really was a ticket and a license for me to be like, you know what, I could take this risk. And so for me, I came from a privileged space where I knew that if I completely messed it up, the worst that would happen is that my family would have to bail me out. And so I came from a very, very lucky space. And I recognize most people are not in that place. And so, that may not be for you. So I didn't necessarily start smart, I started safe. I started with my savings and my family behind me saying, do it. And so what I did was I quit my job. I wrote the letter and like decided whether or not I was going to turn it in for about 30 days. And then finally I turned in the letter and that was it. And so my plan was to work on my business for about 6 months, build a business plan, like work really hard. And then I would launch and it would be this phenomenal success. And that was not smart. There's so much that goes into starting a business and having one that is meeting the compliance and regulations. And so I really needed to do a business plan and have some clients before I quit my job. That's what I should have done. I should have completed a full business plan, tested my idea with some clients, and then got enough clients that I had too many clients that I couldn't keep a job, and then I quit my job. I did the reverse. I just quit the job and then really for the first year or two put a lot of pressure on myself and a lot of stress, and had many moments where I was like, I might need to get a job because this is not working out because I didn't properly prepare. And so tip number one would definitely be to start smart.
So what else you got, Deneisha? Because I know clearly when we're thinking about going through the complete process of a business, right? One of the things that you and I talk about often is that we have all these free services. When I mean there's an abundance of free services that a number of individuals do not take advantage of, not sure why. But talk about your finances and how like starting off is like you need to plan for those things. So we're not telling you to quit your day job, but let Deneisha continue on.
Yeah, I would definitely say do not quit your day job and just start a business. And so, this is meant for people to learn. So I'm going to be very transparent in this moment and tell you that when I resigned from the last place that I was working as a full-time employee, I believe I was making $80,000 a year. And I, you know, thought this is great. I have multiple master's degrees, 10 years, all these years of experience. I still felt that I was underpaid for the work that I was doing. And like in comparison to my peers who were making six figures, I was not making that. But, it sounds like it was good money. I will tell you that money in New York City goes very quickly. I'm sure many of you, especially those of you who live in New York, know that to be true. And so like I was making good money and I had money saved up, about $25,000. So not tons of money, but some money saved up. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take this shot. I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to start this business. And what I will tell you is that money goes very quickly. One of the best things you can do for yourself is to make sure you get your finances straight. And not that my finances were jacked up, because they really weren't. But what I didn't do was prepare for and plan for how much everything would cost. And so I did things like I got an office and was renting an office for $800 a month for the first 2 years. Waste of money. I got an 800 number. I bought all this swag. I spent a lot of money on things that I would consider marketing and maybe like window dressing for the business, and not necessarily things that would generate income. There's a saying, you got to spend money to make money. My recommendation would be to spend money on things that are going to give you a return, that you are going to earn money on, or things that you have to spend money on to keep you in compliance, so that the government doesn't, you don't make money and now you have to pay a ton of fees and you can't actually benefit from the money you made because you weren't in compliance. And so you should, especially early on in your business or when your business is strapped for cash, you should be spending your money wisely and get your finances right. In order to be eligible for lots of the free services that are out there, one, they want your personal taxes and at least a year of your business taxes. And so I would recommend that if your personal finances need help, that you hook up with a group or organization. There are tons of them out there. Anita and I can share some with you. Anita Does Financial Management, is amazing at that and can help you look at your finances and how to, put a budget together and make sure that you are putting yourself in a position to be sustainable. And so one of the things I realized was I was spending money on all types of things that wasn't going to actually generate money for my business. And so after my first year, I had blew through most of my savings. And so I think it's really important for you to only spend money where you have to, get your finances right, because if you have your finances right, you can have access to tons of capital and free programs, grants. The Small Business Development Associations often offer grants, particularly for minority businesses, women-owned businesses. And so where you have a shortfall, you can make that up if your finances are together, and not just like your personal and business finances, keeping track of it, and like, getting a good credit score or whatever you need to do, to put yourself, starting your savings, making sure you build that up to put yourself on real solid footing. And then once you have your business, keep your business finances in check. One of the things I did early on was, I got a business credit card and I had a bank account, and I just think I wasn't thinking about my business in terms of what is a bank going to look at when they decide whether or not they want to lend money to me, right? Like, how much credit do I have outstanding versus how much money my business is generating? Am I over leveraged? What's the capacity for my business to earn money? Those are the things banks care about when they want to decide whether or not they're going to invest or take a shot on you. And so if you want to be able to have access to be able to grow in the future, or to have access to free resources that are financial resources, it's going to be really important for you to get your finances straight. But also, when you have money, spend it wisely. If you don't need an office, don't get an office. I work from home now and it works for me. It's perfect. At some point, I'm going to need to get an office. I'm going to grow into that. But if you don't need one, don't get one just for optics and spend money on things like that. Get a website. You're going to need that. Pay for email that is representative of your business. That's good for your marketing and branding. Put money again into the spaces that are going to help you generate income. And then once you start generating income, use that income to buy the other things that you need. Of course, while still saving and making sure you're building capital for your business. So those would be my tips around finances.
That's all you got?
Listen, you the finance guru. What you got? What's your suggestion?
They don't want to hear what I have to say. No one seems to listen.
No, I'm serious though. And how we talked about spending, like, I remember even we were joking earlier. When you started out, you didn't have that step and repeat behind you, right? You grew into that. Now you got a mic, you got lights, you got like a full-fledged home studio. I feel like I'm so honored to have been around when the bookcase was behind you. You know what I mean? So like, people got to be willing to grow. I think sometimes what we do is we want to start and we want it all to be ready right now. We want it to be perfect. We shell out all this money, and it's really on quicksand. You cannot build a strong business on quicksand.
So I'll tell you all quickly how I got started my business. If you followed me on a number of different spaces, I'll tell you I got fired from my job after maternity leave, and I'm just giving a brief, and not really fired. They, what is it like? What do they call it? Remove the position? No, they eliminate the position. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. That's the legal term. So you coming back from maternity leave, you can't get sued. And so I was stressed, right? When I first, I'm a new mother. My brown baby is I was out on maternity leave almost like 6 months. So when I went back to work, I was my baby was 6 months. And let me tell you, I did have some savings, but I was looking to go back to work to replenish some of that because I was out on maternity leave. And so when I went back in my day one, I was told that, my position is eliminated and I'm breastfeeding. I start crying. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? Like nobody taught. So this is the other stuff. Cause I wasn't thinking about, oh yeah, I'm going to have this wonderful business. I packed up. I pulled my hair back in my Afro bun and I was in spandex all summer until I was like summertime, and September came and everybody's going back to work and I'm still walking around my spandex, breastfeed, and people are like, they going back to work. And I'm like, well, what I'm supposed to do? So I got myself engaged, right, at the community level. So, for me, part of my makeup is that I've always did the give back. It don't matter how much money I made, where I was in my life, the give back is always a part of my thread, whether it's with young people, small businesses, whatever. That is a part of my thread. So I joined the community board and was still trying to figure it out. So once I put in my application for the community board at the Ocean Hill, Brownsville, I got my application, got accepted, and the community board chair put me to work. I had no clue about what it meant to be on a community board, but I do have skills, right? Yeah. So at the request of the chairperson, was like, a few years ago we did a business forum. I was like, I got that. That was light work for me. I got that. I put it together, and it was like less than 3 weeks, pulled from my network to ask them to participate. And that is when I got my lesson, right? About what it means to be in business legally, making sure you have all of your documents and dots in order. Is not just having an LLC without doing the publishing, because I've run into a number of my clients. They have an LLC and do not publish appropriately in the state of New York, which means what? You ain't really in business. You got to do the publishing. And
6 weeks.
until you advocate, because publishing in 2020, and I'm just going a little bit off topic, is pointless. Nobody not reading newspapers like that. Okay, let me take that back. There is a specific population that still likes to touch and feel the paper.
Mm-hmm.
The other majority of us are not looking at that, but most of us miss that step, and we like, we in business. Negative, right? So I did that forum. I learned about what it means to be a minority women business enterprise. And I was like, but I don't sell products. I don't sell anything that, that's like cell phones or anything like that. I said, I offer a service.
Right.
Gail Davis, and I want to shout her out, because she was one of the speakers, and at the time she was the director of the women's center at the LDC of East New York, the East New York Development Corporation. And she was like, yeah, you can get an MWBE because they have money and resources specifically designated at the city, state, federal level across all states that is specifically designated. Once you prove that you're able to connect in that space, you have this gold seal, that's what I call it, and you're able to now bid and exchange with the city and state because you got cleared, right? They didn't tell me that clearance would take almost a year and a half, right? Right? They didn't say that, but she put a buzz in my head and she put it in my spirit, was like, yeah, you could get that. And it just took that. I started off as a sole proprietorship. I want to put that out there. I started off as a sole proprietorship, one of the basic business levels, business designations that you can start off as. I went downtown, brought my brown baby with me. We in spandex, or I was in spandex actually. Went down to the clerk's office, paid I think it was maybe, let's do like $120, right? And I had a business, opened up a business account. I didn't need an EIN number, because when you have a sole proprietorship, you do not need an EIN number because you don't have any employees, right? So I want to be clear. Everybody always say, yeah, get the EIN number, pay for it. No, if you're set up as a sole proprietorship, you do not have to do that in the beginning. Basic stuff, go down to the clerk's office, figure out the name, it's the Bloomberg form. I forgot the name of the form that you fill out for your designation, and pay your fees, make sure your stuff is in order, and also have a separate bank account. Keep your finances separate. So Deneisha was talking about making sure that you get your finances in order and start right, spend wisely. So let's talk about this minority women designation just really briefly, because I want to get back to Deneisha's story and really focusing on, how her genesis of what it means to be a business owner, because I think that's really important. But before I just want to let you know, I didn't pay anything for the certification. The only thing I paid for was the fees to get established with the state and also at the city level with the county clerk's office. I used the business solutions on Bond Street. If anybody from Brooklyn, it's on Bond Street. I connected with Miss Veronica Harris, who helped me walk through my application, who was also at that Minority Women Business Enterprise event that I pulled together. So I stayed in contact with all those speakers who were giving me resources. This was all for free. I didn't spend a dime. The other thing I did do was I did invest in a website. But let me tell you something. If you work with these economic development corporations, they will do it for you. Guess what? It's for free. I want to say that it is for free. The only thing I paid for was my domain name and my emails because I wanted to look legit. I didn't want to have a Anita.Pierce at, I can crack some jokes.com. I didn't want that. I wanted Anita at 11375 so that when people came and contacted me, that I was at least that legit. That cost me maybe $200, right? They built my first website. And now, as I've gotten more experience with understanding technology, websites, I've made some tweaks myself. I still have to budget because I want it to look more robust. So I'm actually planning to do a whole rebrand on the website, but that's not a priority. A priority right now is making sure that I'm sustaining my clients and making sure I utilize all the free resources that are out there. The Department of Small Business Services, if you're watching from New York City, but I'm sure that in other areas, your local municipalities have small business services, either through a chamber of commerce, through your local economic development corporations. They get funding for this to help us. They need the credit. So why not stick yourself in there and take advantage of it? It's for free. I'm going to say that it is for free. I have absolutely no shame in telling everybody that I took advantage and am still taking advantage of free resources because that's what we put our tax dollars in. So I'm going to pause a bit and just say that take advantage of the free resources. I didn't get here because I spent a whole heck of a lot of money. I took advantage of the resources that are out there. There is no shame. And everybody who is live here now should consider, and don't be ashamed, connecting with your local economic development corporation, connecting with another consultant to just kind of like, create collaboratives, and don't be afraid to do so, but take advantage of the free stuff. And I'm gonna pause because Deneisha needs to give some more tips, but thank you.
Listen, that is a really important tip. I think free is good. There's going to be a lot of things you have to spend money on as a business owner. And so as much as you can get help, you want to do that. And so I'm going to share just a couple more tips. I know that we are going to get close to time soon. And so I want to make sure that I run through some additional tips. We talked about starting smart, getting your finances right and spending wisely. Another thing that I would recommend is to collect, store, and protect your evidence. It is one of the biggest things that I regret from early on when I started doing this work as a consultant is that so much of my work now, when I go to other meetings, I go to conferences, I sit on a webinar, and I'll see the template of something that I created years ago that people are still using, still utilizing. I go into meetings and a facilitator's agenda, the template that I created, people are using it. And so what I will say is that I have, and I got paid for that work, but if I knew that that work would be having legs for years and years and years, I probably would have charged something differently. And so not only do you want to build credibility, particularly as a consultant, it's really important for me to have credibility and to have evidence of my work so that when I want to get new business, I can demonstrate my receipts. It's also important for you to protect it and to make sure that, there is a difference, that you understand the difference between ownership and attribution. And so there are differences between how you work with a client. So for me, there may be times where I create a tool and I create it because the client hired me to create that tool. The client owns that tool, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be attributed as the creator of the tool. So I'll give you an example. Think about the newspaper. And someone takes a photograph, a photojournalist works at the newspaper, takes a photograph. The newspaper may own the photo because they did it while they were working at the newspaper, but you'd never see that photo without the name of the person who took that picture. It's always going to be there because it gets attributed to them. The same thing with the article. You write an article, it may live under the masthead of a newspaper, but the author of the article is on the byline because you want to know who created this work. And so one of my biggest regrets is that for lots of my early work and my intellectual property, I didn't protect it. I didn't put my logo on it. I just slapped my client's logo on it. I didn't archive it. I didn't create templates. And so don't give your work away. There is a different, and it moves to like how much you charge for something, right? Like, don't undercharge. There are going to be times where someone says, we want to own this product. We want you to create something for us and we want to own it. Well, that comes at a premium cost. You don't charge the same price to create something that someone's going to own and use and make money off of for a long time and not be able to benefit from that. And while you may not own it and you may not get royalties as if it's music and they play your song and so you getting a cut out of it, at least whoever sees it knows where it came from and knows that you created it. And that helps to build your brand and your credibility and bring you potential business in the future, right? So 2 years from now, if one of my decks are out there and someone sees it and they see, www.deneisha.com, they know exactly where to go. That is free marketing that I don't have to do anything for, but that might get my name out there and get it into the eyes and hands of another potential client. And so please learn the difference between ownership and attribution. If you're going to let someone own your work, definitely charge premium for it. But even if you are going to own it and they're going to use it, your attribution should always, always, always be present. And again, do not undercharge. Another thing that I learned is that I wasn't charging enough. When I started out, I was so happy to have someone just hire me. Like, pay me $50 an hour, pay me $75 an hour, like just whatever I would be able to have a client who would pay me and pay me steady. And I knew that would be income coming in. I kind of was like, sure, and not negotiating my price. And what I did was for too long undersell myself. I spent years working and providing quality services to people and being underpaid and undercompensated. And, I would often tell myself, well, I'm going to charge a little bit this time. And when I renegotiate the contract or the next time I do something with them, then I'm really going to charge what I should be charging to begin with. But what you learn is that like people, once they see you at a certain price point, and once they know I was able to get this service at this price, they don't want to pay more for it. They'd much rather pay more to the new consultant coming in than to pay you who they've been paying at a certain price point. And so don't undercharge. Know your value and charge what you are worth, particularly if you are a person of color. If you are a person of color, if you are a Black person, you need to be compensated and well compensated for your work. If you are bringing skills, if you are helping and a knowledge base, if you are helping people to develop themselves, or you're providing whatever good and service you're providing, don't undercut yourself. Get paid what you deserve. That is like one of the biggest messages that I can give to people. And sometimes, you're in a space where you're like, I just need some money. That should not be your practice. You really, and if a client, the first thing they want to do is talk about how much it costs, that's a red flag. Like, frankly, if you went to a job interview, the first thing you wouldn't say is like, well, how much is it, right? Like, we know that's baffling. You might wait to the end. You might talk about it at the next interview. But like the first thing out your mouth about the job wouldn't be how much is it. It might be that to the person who told you about the job, but when you go on the interview, that's not the first thing out of your mouth. And so if I'm a consultant and you are thinking about using my services, I want you to be interested in what I can provide for you. I want to talk about the quality of my work. I want to talk about how we can work together, how we can achieve the goals of this potential contract. And then I'm going to share my rate. And I'm sharing a fair rate. I feel like I don't overcharge clients, but I'm not undercharging either. And so if you can't get with my rate, this is probably not going to be a relationship that is going to feel good for me down the road. It might be great to sign the deal, but 6 months from now, 3 months from now, down the road, when I'm doing all this work for this client and now really recognizing how much I'm being underpaid, or learning that they're paying other people way more to do similar types of work, then you have resentment, and then you have a problem that you want to address. And so I cannot stress enough. One of the things I learned, and it was from a client who told me, Deneisha, I'm going to tell you something. And I'm like, yeah, sure, what? She's like, you're not charging enough. You are not charging enough for the type of work that you're giving us. And, I'm, to the day I die, will be grateful to her for telling me that, because it was like a light bulb went off. I had never believed that someone would even pay me more. And since that time, I've doubled my rate. And I will tell you, I have never had someone since then question my rate. And so it also tells me I'm probably still undercharging, right? And so I saw yesterday on Twitter, someone said, people should charge, particularly people of color, should charge the amount just before you laugh out loud to yourself. And so charge a premium. You're worth it. Anita.
Okay. So we back on this premium, huh?
I mean, we've had this conversation, and that's one of the things I think early on, one of the things that help us to build trust is that we share with each other our rate. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, let's talk about this, right? We don't do that enough with each other to say, well, how much you charge? Well, what should we charge for this? Or what should we charge for that? Those are conversations you should try to have. And like, part of it is because some of it is around pride and competition. But all those things are impediments to growth and success. Really find people who are doing similar things to you, other entrepreneurs who you can learn and grow from, and really, put yourself out there. So vulnerability is not always a bad thing. It oftentimes can connect you with people who definitely can help you out and be an active part of your village. That's just not a part of your village, but an active part of your village.
So we are coming upon our hour, and I'm just checking the comments to see if there are any pressing questions. I don't know. I know we can't hear your voices, but please, this is an opportunity for you to ask any questions about, some of the issues that we may have experienced, because, Deneisha and I have had really bad clients, right? It's really interesting. Got a question. How did you tap into your clientele moving from traditional social work into coaching? Hey, Miss Rox.
Hey, Roxanne. Thank you for that question. It's a great question. So one of the things, and let me share my screen real quick. I'll show you my website, and you'll be able to see the types of services that I offer. But what I will say is that I didn't start here. I started with facilitation and doing training. So when I worked at a nonprofit, one of the things that I did, and I will say shout out to anyone from BronxWorks who may be on or who will see this. BronxWorks was the very first social service organization that I worked at. It is in the Bronx, it's the largest one, if I'm not mistaken, in the Bronx. And really was my training ground. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was a place where I really learned what good organizational management is. It was where I learned how a good nonprofit should be run. And so while I was there, I had opportunities that exposed me to tons of things such as training and professional development. And so I started as a trainer. My very first work when I became a consultant, I was doing lots of training and professional development for case managers and case management programs. And one client that I had said, I really would love to know if you could work more directly with one of my staff, because I think she's great. Because I'm always saying, how are we supporting the people who work here? How are we making sure that they're getting the skill sets that they need? It's great to complain that people are not doing their job, but how are you as an organization pouring into them and investing in them to make sure you're helping them build skills? And so I would have those conversations with clients all the time. And she said, well, I have this one staff person that I would love for you to work directly with and see if you can help her out. And so I started working with her and really just did a quick certificate in coaching and learned really how to work with someone on a one-to-one level when it came to goal setting, professional goal setting, and then actually achieving it. And some of it is that I have a background as a social worker. So I used to be a psychotherapist and a case manager. And so I have a certain style of how to work with people. And so I think being able to, do counseling and kind of leading with empathy just gave me the basic skill sets of what I needed to be a coach. And so there is a profession, there's an actual discipline of coaching. And what I would say is that coaching really is based in helping people to reflect, helping them to identify goals, and then helping them to create action steps and accountability for how to get it done. And if you are someone who can walk people through that without taking it personal, without putting your personal biases into it, but really trying to elevate what someone else is thinking, feeling, and helping them to see as an individual how they can put steps in place to achieve whatever goal they want to achieve, then you can be a coach. And so I kind of fell into coaching. And I think that's one good thing I should say is one good point to bring up. The business you start might not be the business you have 10 years, 8 years down the road. I'm 8 years in, and when I started with something called Rent an Expert. I thought that I was going to solve the world's problems by finding a group of consultants and then connecting them with projects, and that we would all go out and just do these projects and it would be great. And didn't really think about the organizational foundation that needs to be in place to do that and to like do that well. And so I think it's important for you to really think about, what do I do well now? What am I good at now? And one of my tips is be ready to adapt and grow. And so I was really good at offering training. And that was something that I had credibility in. I had some experience. I could get references for. I could design it. As Anita mentioned, I'm an adjunct professor, so I have some teaching experience. And so I was able to like put together trainings. I did that. And as I did those trainings and they started going well, I started noticing that there's other needs. Now I could do training the trainer. I can help other people learn how to like facilitate trainings. And then from that, started working closely with organizations. And then they asked me, like, could you coach this one person? And so some of it is also just believing in yourself and recognizing that your business needs to be able to grow, and to think about that early on. What are the things that I'm good at right now? And like, what are the types of things I would like to do in the future? And so that's how I went about it. I'm a licensed social worker. And so I have a master's degree in social work and I'm licensed. And as I mentioned, I provided psychotherapy for quite some time before, early on when I became a consultant. And so I had some background in that made being able to do coaching, which is not clinical. Being a psychotherapist is a very clinical experience. Coaching is not clinical. It's not about trying to figure out mental health and all those things. It really is about action planning. And so that's what I was able to do.
So Ebony asks, what was the certification that you received? Hey, Eb.
Hi, Ebony. Thank you for joining us. So I received like I said, I'm a licensed social worker, and then I went to NYU and received a postmaster's certificate in professional coaching.
So I'm going to check to see if there's any more questions. Don't be shy, folks, because we're going to wrap up, and then, we're going to give you information as if you have more questions, how you can reach out to us. But I'm going to have Deneisha, you wanted to show your website.
Other questions? Yep. So as you can see here, it says these are my services. As I mentioned, I'm a consultant. And so I offer a variety of consulting services in conjunction with my partners at Blue Compass Group, where I am the managing partner. And so we do strategic planning, we do facilitation, and then we also offer retreats. And so if you're interested in retreats for your organization or for your group, we offer transformational experiences by way of retreats. I do lots of work related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and race equity. That is a big thing happening right now. This field has been hard at work for a long time, but given all the things happening in our country right now, this has become a hot topic. And so I work with organizations to create anti-racist practices, behaviors, and policies. And so we do that through a variety of ways. As I mentioned, there's coaching and technical assistance. And then I also help people who want to be trainers to learn how to train in a variety of different topics. And so I do this to adapting. I was doing all this work in person, and then COVID happened and I had to adapt. And so the majority of my work is offered virtually, either through Zoom or the learning management system. And so I'm an adjunct professor. I teach online. And so what I did was invest in an online learning management system that I could put all of my curriculum, all of my trainings online. And so not only do I do virtual training, live training through Zoom, I also have that people can go on and sign on and do individual training at their own pace on a variety of topics. And so all of that is accessible from the website.
So boom, no excuse. No excuse. If you need to contact Deneisha, how would we find you, Deneisha?
Easy. Deneisha.com. www.deneisha. Twitter is at From Deneisha. And then my email is scrolling across the bottom. It's hello@deneisha.com. And so please connect with me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And again, I am always happy to share and help others. And so if you are interested in starting a business, you want to be a consultant, you're curious about how it works, about getting clients, about tapping into different markets, please reach out to me. I'm always willing to share wisdom. I believe that we have to be active parts of each other's village. And mistakes happen. And I think that one of the best ways to grow is by making a mistake and what I call failing forward. But what I hope is that people don't always have to make the same mistakes I made. Like, make different mistakes, learn from the ones I made, and then make different mistakes. And so if I can support any of you in your businesses, and be a thought partner with you as you try to figure it out, definitely hit me up. I'm always happy to share. And if you know anyone who's looking for retreats, a trainer who wants to bring in a consultant to do work around diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you are interested in being a trainer yourself and you want some professional development around training, please let me know. I'm definitely happy to help. Hey, Erskine, my brother-in-law, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for the support, because we definitely appreciate it. And I want to just follow up with saying thank you all for joining. Thank you, Deneisha, for being stretched, because this online stuff is a beast, y'all. It really is. And, I just want to say thank you for exhibiting your courage and sharing your experience. There's a whole lot to talk about. There's so much to talk about, but we only going to pack it in like an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to take that much of your time. But I definitely want to share, some information about Deneisha, her website, and her B card. So I'm going to put that up on her screen. And so if you are looking to contact Deneisha, this is one of the ways. I am huge in it promoting small businesses, Black businesses of color, particularly of color, because I think that given all that we have been experiencing now, it is important that we support each other. This doesn't cost us anything but time, right? And also to be able to have the courage to do so. These are Deneisha's tips that was up here. We're going to share them later on. And also wanted to just share some additional resources before we sign off. Couple of really interesting tips. Number one, real simple way to support an entrepreneur. I know y'all like, well, I don't have any money and all this other stuff. Real simple. Deneisha put her information out there on about where you can find her on social media. Follow her on social media. Even if you have not been a patron as of yet of her business, share a post, spread the word, and don't ask for discounts, right? Do not ask for discounts, because I know that, most of us are really into high-end stuff. I'm sure you're not going into Gucci and Louis and asking for a discount. I'm sure of that. You're paying the price. So when it comes to small businesses and ways to support an entrepreneur, don't ask for the discount. Think about becoming a brand ambassador. Another way, join their mailing list, but definitely support them in as many really simple ways as you can. But the most basic way is definitely on social media. The resources that we talked about earlier, the free stuff. There are a lot of grants and resources that are out there. This is going to be posted on Facebook. I'm going to actually email this over to Deneisha so she can have the links and be able to share it with her clients as well. SCORE, I Fund Women, ComcastRise.com. But I also wanted to drill down a bit, because there was a summit with Black Enterprise. Now, I know that we're in the space of COVID and most of us are not doing traveling, but they have an online virtual summit that's happening today and tomorrow. And guess what? It's for free. So please take advantage of, there's still opportunity to register for Black Enterprise. And no, I'm not a brand ambassador for them, but they had a lot of good information that I just found out about it literally this morning. And so I logged on, and it was a great conference. So definitely Black Enterprise. We have like the SBA, the Chamber of Commerce's, and also when you are thinking about the loans. Consider credit unions, the CDFI, the Black-owned banks that can help. And even if you need credit help, again, before you even think about paying our fees, right? And we're encouraging it because, yes, we do need to make money because we are in business. But if you're not at the level where you want to be a patron of our businesses, we humbly encourage you, get the free stuff. We will work you through our experience, right? Because we have collectively, and I don't want to say it out loud, but we got like 30 years of experience plus. And I'm still, I know I don't look it, but yeah, we got combined 30 plus years of experience. So please take advantage of the free information that is out there. And again, if you want to tap into Deneisha, I'm going to put up Deneisha's information again. Definitely, this is how you can reach her. And of course, I won't leave myself out because I am of 11375. Please like, follow Facebook. I am certified as a minority women business enterprise. I will help you through your process. I'll even help you and show you where you can get the free resources to become certified as a minority women business enterprise so that when you're ready to do other things, you can come to myself and Deneisha. So on that note, we're going to say goodnight. And one more thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. But join us on Monday because we're going to talk about the restaurant business in the midst of COVID. And then on Thursday, we're going to have two other wonderful entrepreneurs. They actually showed up in the chat, so I'm actually going to shout them out. Miss Roxanne Lang is going to be speaking about real estate and also mental wellness. So check it out.
Hey, Roxy.
And also Miss Elana Martins, right? So I'm not even going to tell you what her business is because it's still in process, but it's dope. I promise you it's needed and it's dope. So listen, join us on Monday. We're going to have the owner of Essies Restaurant in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
Chef Brandon Walker is going to be joining us, and he's going to give us some insight through COVID, how to keep his restaurant afloat. And the food is good too. The food is good. And then on Thursday, we're going to be joined by Miss Elana Martins and also Miss Roxanne Lang. So stay tuned because guess what? This information is free too. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Good night. Please stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.